Hey guys, and welcome back to Create Above and Beyond. So thank you if you were able to tune into the live stream yesterday. I had a lot of fun on there, and we managed to get quite a lot done here in our factory. As you can see here, many of the walls are now being put in place in our factory. So last episode we set up our production of silicon here, and on stream we actually took this up to the next stage of production, added our sequenced assembly, and we are now producing calculation mechanisms here. We also added some extra logic around the base to be able to transport all of the kinetic mechanisms from the previous tier to allow us to fully automate these calculation mechanisms, which we're going to need a lot of today. So the goal for this episode is to see how far we can get through chapter 5, the last one in the quest book, and at the end of the chapter we unlock the rocket guidance computer, along with the rest of the materials we need to leave this planet and visit the moon. So right at the end of our factory floor here is going to be our rocket launch site, and we have our rocket silo here built. I think this place is looking awesome. But we still have a full chapter to complete before we can get there. So, how many of you guys enjoy mathematics? And this pack has us doing some more mathematics, a bit like the end of Divine Journey, but I don't think it's going to get quite as crazy as that thing. So this will involve another Tinkers Smeltery here. We're going to build it a bit taller than this one. And inside the smeltery, we're going to melt down the calculation mechanisms, which is why it's so important to have these fully automatic. We're currently up to 500. We need, I think, a few thousand is the number I've heard floating around. So these calculation mechanisms we're going to place into an ender chest, or a transportation over to the smeltery over there. And then underneath we'll place a hopper. Actually, hold on. We want to make sure this is a coloured ender chest first. I think we'll just do this triple black. So the other end of this ender chest will be inserted into our Tinkers Smeltery here. So we have to place a seared chute for the item input. We can put hopper on top of this and then ender chest on top. Make sure we colour this triple black, which should hook up to the one over there. Yeah, that gives us all of our calculation mechanisms. And then as part of this controller, we're going to want 6 different outputs for this. We'll also need the smeltery controller, and then yeah, 6 different seared drains here. Oh, this is an even number. Oh no. Why did I do this? And we can't move it 1 block this way. Okay, you know what? The solution is just to build higher, and we'll do groups of 2 instead of 3. And arrange the drains something like that. So then we'll need our casting tables, seared faucets for each one. And in order to get this running, we're also going to need to supply this with some lava. So we'll swap out this block with a seared fuel tank, pop down an ender tank, and I think our lava one is on white, black, white. Alright, are these melting? Yes, they are. Okay, we're getting liquified logic. The quest does want a bucket, so we'll pick that up before we do anything else with this. Alright, so now we have to make all of the different base components from this. So for this, we're going to need some integer casts. We can really easily grab one of these casts just with some nickel plates. Oh, but I didn't think about inventory space here though. I think I've got another stone cutter down there. Okay, so then from here we're going to have to supply a redstone signal. I've got all the casts placed on the casting tables. And if we give this a redstone signal, it should start casting out all of these for us. That was actually really quick. Yeah, so we get the 3. Actually, before we start grabbing all these things, we should think about how we're going to grab from the casting tables. We'll need the items, which then have to go through mechanical crafters. And so I guess we need 3 crafters per number. And there are 8 numbers here we have to make. So that is what, 24 mechanical crafters we need? Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use brass pipes here to extract from the casting tables. Feed those into our mechanical crafters here. And now is where the math begins, right? So, in fact, we have to hook up brass pipes to each one of these crafters to be able to filter the inserts. And we don't have enough brass. Nice. So we didn't add in any buffers here from these casting tables. I'm hoping that's not going to be necessary. Aha, and we have our first problem here. So, right now I've only filtered these 3 on the bottom, these pipes here. I was going to do 8 minus 3. Since 8 and 3 is the only 2 we start with, and it's backwards because the output is on the left hand side here. However, when this requested the 8, it instantly cast the next one and also sent it to this inventory, since it does take some travel time for the item to be sent here. But then since there was nowhere for it to go because the casting table had already cast the next 8, it bounced to the next available inventory in the network, which was the next crafters. So that is going to cause some jams if we don't address that thing. So I think instead of using pipes, we are going to probably end up switching to using belts. Either way, this setup isn't going to work, so it's time for take 2. So instead, to solve this problem, actually, we're going to use some digital item movement in the form of Applied Energistics. So we're going to be building a little mini ME subnet here, just to handle this item transfer, which should make things instantaneous. To get this up and running though, we will need to do a few more things. One of those being wait for more calculation mechanisms, as this is actually used in the recipe for the Annihilation Core. We need an ME controller, which takes these calculation mechanisms. And right now, all of them are sitting melted in our smeltery, so yeah, we maybe shouldn't have melted down all of these to begin with. But we only need a handful of these, well, 24 import buses. And also some storage buses, which takes the interface, and oh, this is another few cores, so yeah. You need a few more stacks of these mechanisms. At least we've got all the processors here ready to go. Alright guys, I think after some trial and error, we have every single number here being crafted, and we have a brand new ME system, a mini ME system. So from the top, the way this is being handled is we have storage buses directly on these casting tables. All these storage buses are on extract only, which means they can only ever pull items out of the casting table. To be honest, I don't think that actually matters in this case, since I don't think you can pipe straight into this casting table with items. But regardless, they're all on this ME cable, which goes straight into the bottom side of this ME controller. And so remember, we have to deal with the channels here from Applied Energistics. So these regular cables here can only handle 8 devices, or 8 channels. On this smeltery, we're using 6. So we have 2 to spare still. And this spare chest here is just from when I was testing this. This is just some extra numbers and multipliers we have here. So I've just put on another storage bus just so that the system can use these items as well, but this will be removed. On all of these crafters, we also have export buses, not import buses. I ended up crafting 24 of these import buses and realised it was backwards. So yeah, import buses import to the ME system, and export buses take items from the system and put in external devices. But anyways, these are all filtered for the numbers. So for example, this one here is 8 minus 3, which of course gives us 5. I did have this backwards before, but even if you point them to the left, it still reads from left to right. Yeah, so this one here gives us 5. Those are then pointing into an adjustable crate here, and right now we're only storing 12 of each. I really don't know exactly how many we should buffer, but I don't want to buffer too many of these numbers. But these adjustable crates are great. You can actually store really, really specific amounts with these. And then all of these also have the storage bus on there set to extract only, so that they're then available for the rest of the export buses on this network. So for example, this 5 one here is also used in this top crafter here, which makes 7. So here we're doing 5 plus 2. Yeah, 5 plus 2 is giving us 7. And the 5 here is coming from this storage bus on the same network. And then of course Applied Energistics also needs power, so we're using our magmatic dynamos. And we're just taking from the same ender tank that's also powering this smeltery here, which gives us our silver ingots. I just extended along the fluid pipe and then placed some magmatic dynamos on this. And so yeah, it's not actually too complex. I thought there would be a bit more to it than this, but yeah. And then we're also grabbing rotational power just from these belts. I had to turn on a few more of our flywheels. We had, I think, 6 of these actually turned off, but I turned on another 3 of these things, and we still have another 3 flywheels to spare. But in the, I don't know, hour and a half maybe it took me to set this up, we have built up quite the number of calculation mechanisms, and our smeltery here is almost full, so yeah. We have a lot of these things already. But anyways, with each of the numbers here, we can tick them off our quest book. We should have numbers 1 to 9 and also 0. Or I guess you could say 0 to 9. Oh, and we have to pick up the 9 also for the quest. Alright, so all of those have to lead into this computation matrix, which is 1 of each of the numbers here. Oh, wait a second, it's not 1 of each, is it? It's 10 of each of the numbers. Yeah, because this recipe calls for 10 millibuckets of each logic number, and we only get 1 for every number that we melt. Okay, so that makes things a lot more expensive than I thought. And probably means that we should up these storage crates. Let's hold at least a stack of each, just to start with. Alright, that's looking awesome. Aha, so we've added in another Tinkers Smeltery here to give us our liquified logic numbers. And there's some extra redstone controls here that we'll go over in a second, but this system may have to be reworked. It doesn't work completely as I intended. So watch, if we put in some of the numbers here to this storage bus, you can see here that sometimes it actually knocks it off, even if there is space in this adjustable crate. I mean, yeah, it knocked off the numbers here. For some reason, I really can't figure out what this is. Yeah, it's almost like it starts the craft without receiving all 3 of the digits. And then because it's an invalid recipe, it just kicks the items off onto the ground, which kind of messes things up a bit. So, oh yeah, we got some more numbers spilling out over here. So some things have been rewired, and I believe we now have this working. The issue with the crafters before is they were actually receiving a redstone signal because we had these redstone links on this belt funnel instead, which was also powering the crafters and actually starting the craft without them receiving all 3 of their items. But it's fixed. All we had to do was move the redstone links to the other side on the inserts of the smeltery, which when this is activated will stop any inserts into the smeltery. We also have another 2 on this side, and these 2 here are the ones that we cast out, so this is number 8 and 3. And these redstone links are controlled by these redstone links right here. So basically we have this adjustable crate which stores the number 3, then a stockpile switch to read the contents of this inventory, and if it's full then it will emit a if it's full it will not emit a redstone signal, and if both of them are full then it will output to this one here, which is the 0, and this is the one that's connected to all these brass funnels. Basically what we're trying to say here is if we have enough numbers then send them to the smeltery. But one thing that's unique about these 2 extra numbers here, the number 3 and 8, is we are actually using storage buses for this. And these are filtered for the respective numbers. And instead of putting a storage bus on the casting table here, like we do for all of the other multipliers, or operators I guess you could call them, we are actually using the import buses right here for the 3 and the 8, which will import bus into the ME system. And because there's only one place for them to go, they will end up in this crate here, where they're then pulled out from the crate by these export buses into the crafters to craft down the rest of the numbers here. So this is probably a bit over-engineered, to be honest. And it still has left us with some inconsistent amounts of logic in here. Just from all the testing I've done, like we only have 3 millibuckets of 8, and we have like over 200 of the number 6, so that's going to have to get rectified somehow. But yeah, if we connect up this cable and hook up our system to all the outputs of this smeltery, we're going to see all of this start crafting. Awesome. The mechanical crafters from Crate are so cool. But yeah, we shouldn't see any more items pop off of these things. And then once these crates fill up, in fact we may end up switching this down to just a half stack, or even just 16. Yeah, we'll keep it as 16 of each. But once those crates fill up, we should see the smeltery fill with 1 of each of the numbers here. And then once we have 10, I mean we already have over 100 of a lot of these things. So in fact we could probably melt manually some of these 8s just to clear some of the backlog. Oh, I know what. Oh, look at this. We've got a seared chute here, and we have the drain on the number 8, which is probably why none of the 8s were being melted. Oh, this makes so much sense. Yeah, the drain is for liquids, and yeah, that makes so much sense. Okay, we want the drain on the front here, and the chute on the back. There we go. So while we're waiting on all of the logic crafting, we should look at the other part of this quest line. This isn't all that we need to get into space. We are also going to need to look at some way to fuel this rocket, right? Of course we are. So we need to find some crude oil, or crude oil, yeah. So I do recall seeing an oil field somewhere. Where that is though, I have no idea. And we have covered so much ground on this map already. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything immediately obvious here. I think we're just going to have to fly around to we see something. See, normally for the oil, it's quite a good idea to search the oceans, but I'm not really having much luck with the oceans right now. I think I'm going to try a bit further inland. I really wish I set up a waypoint for that thing. Aha, we found it. We are over 2,000 blocks away from home. Alright, so we're going to place our hose pulley right at the top of this thing. Right about there should do it. And then of course we'll have to give this rotational power. For that we're going to go back to a trick we used in episode 1. And we're going to reuse the encased fan here. I did remember to bring my toolbox with me, which is good. So we're going to place the encased fan facing down, just like so, and then vertical gearbox on top, into shaft. And then I think we'll need another one to route around to the pump that's going to be on the other side. This is where our oil is going to come out of. There we go. And then ender tank on top of this. Swap this out with some cogs. Then we'll need to power the encased fan, so we want magma block underneath for a heat source, and a redstone signal. And that should slowly get everything spinning here. Oh yeah, we can see the hose pulley being lowered into the oil. That should go all the way down, however far it goes. And then we should start seeing the good stuff in here. In fact, we could probably speed this up with a large cogwheel on this. And of course, this is right in between 4 chunks, so we're going to load them all. And that should be us. We should be getting our oil in here any second now. Alright, so now that we have a slow trickle of oil coming in, the black gold, we have to process it down into rocket fuel. And to do that, we're going to need a couple of fractionating stills again from thermal. Alright, so this process first starts with the first fractionating still, which is going to input our oil from the ender tank, which will be on triple black. In fact, this thing is already full. For this setup, we will actually be centralizing the power. So we're going to run the dynamos right at the start of the chain here. And we can extend along this lava line, which is used to feed our smeltery here, which powers our fractionating still. We can automatically insert from the top side, which is processing our crude oil. Nice. So this is going to give us both heavy and also light fuel. And both of those fluids we will just buffer in another tank here next to this fractionating still. Actually, these tanks will need to be moved over a couple of blocks, since we need room for the smart fluid pipe. And this is how we're going to filter out the heavy oil on this side and the light oil on this side. And of course, we'll also need 2 pumps on these tanks. And then from the tanks, we can feed it into 2 more fractionating stills. So this one will still down the light oil and then the heavy oil. And both of those actually will give us the refined fuel. So we'll extend along this invar flux duct to give all of these things power. And then hook up the mechanical pumps here. Last thing we need on all of this is rotational power for these pumps. And I think we're actually good to go. And that is the whole process for refined fuel. We do have to set some filters though, and also pick up a bucket for the quest. Yep, this is what happens when you don't set the filters. Both the tanks filled with heavy oil. I think we can fix it with some seared lanterns from... No, we can't. Oh, that's... that's unfortunate. Okay, we managed to fix it. I pumped all of the heavy fuel into a seared tank, which we can then actually put right here, connect this up, and that should empty the tank out of heavy oil. We already got both of the filters set now, so if we replace the fluid pipe here, there is also the item byproducts that we get from this, the sulfur. I think we get a bitumen byproduct chance output, yeah. So to solve this, we are simply just going to use a voided drawer, which will void any excess items that get placed inside. And then here we can place a 1x2, give these the automatic output feature, and send all of the items out to the right hand side here. So all that's left to do now is to collect the refined fuel outputs from both of these fractionating stills, and we can store this for later for use in our rocket. Is this fluid tank a bit overkill? Yeah, probably. But it looks awesome. Okay, so we've already got nearly 4 buckets of our refined fuel. However, we're not done yet. There is also this other quest line up the top here to get all the plastics. And this is basically the rest of the rocket components we need. This will allow us to make our rocket thrusters, the fuel tanks, the fueling system, and also the most important part, our spacesuit. So yeah, to get started in this thing, we're going to have to make some matter balls from Applied Energistics, and then turn that into matter plastics. So after some time away from the smeltery, before we move on here, I did notice that there was still some inconsistencies in the insertion rate of the different numbers. And I think what's causing it is the number 3s are being sent in here, which of course is triggering all of these brass tunnels to insert to the smeltery. But this doesn't give enough time for some of these crafters to craft down, like for example the number 7, which we're lacking on. So to fix that, we can actually add just a separate buffer. So we're going to add in another 2 storage crates here for numbers 8 and 3. Put storage buses on here. Make sure we give these a filter. And I think just by making these high priority, it should fix our problem here. And then we can put the export buses back on the original storage crates here, which should mean that the numbers get sent to the new ones first, and then used for the extra crafts, and then any excess ends up in here, where it will trigger the inserts for the smeltery. At least that's the theory anyway. Also, apologies for any audio issues. There seems to be something weird going on with this smeltery, or at least the sounds for the casting table. I have no idea what it is, but it should be fixed by now. Okay, so this matter condenser I think we'll set up on the other side of our factory. And so this thing, assuming it hasn't changed from 1.12, we can just feed this any item. Oh, I guess we'll actually need the storage component as well. But the item we're going to be using here is actually going to be sand. If we hook this up to white, green, white, yeah, we have a huge abundance of sand here. So the item is consumed in the process, so we're effectively trashing the items. But since sand is probably our most abundant resource, or at least it's produced the fastest. But yeah, we will have to craft up a 1k ME storage component. Looks easy enough, I guess. So the storage component will go in the top slot here, and then we have to import our sand, so we'll use brass item pipes for this, probably on the back here. And we can just stick a retrieval module on the back. And we want this on the matter ball setting, yeah. So we need 256 items per matter ball. And then those we can just buffer in a drawer. Lock this drawer, and we're ready for the next step. That was easy. So our next step here is to make the matter plastics. However, to get these, we have to compact 9 of these matter balls. However, this also has to be superheated, and for that we need blaze cakes. However, this is create above and beyond, and we can trade for them. So, so yeah. One trade station here with our ender chest hooked up to the silver coins, which should be white, black, white. It's not. Yeah, it should be white, black, white. Oh, we're missing the diamond on the front, that's why. There we go. Then we can automatically pull from the top side, which will pull this over. Oh, that's the wrong slot though. Oh, wait a second. No, that is the right slot because we need our import card in the bottom slot here. So actually, this will work out as long as we give this thing power. So we can magmatic dynamo and ender tank on the back. And this is going to start producing us blaze cakes. Awesome. And once again, we can just buffer it in a drawer right here on the side. Pick it up for our quest. So now the question is, do we have a spare blaze burner? I really hope we do. We have one empty and one full. Is that going to be is this the right kind of blaze burner though? Oh, it is. Nice. Okay. And of course, we'll need our mechanical press. Alright, and with a little bit of setup, we have matter plastics. But yeah, not too difficult of an extension onto this existing setup here. But same as before, we have a deployer which is given the blaze cakes by this brass item pipe. That is then feeding the blaze burner to superheat it. And the matter balls are just coming out on this belt here, inserted into the basin, stamped by the press, and then automatically output to the output drawer here to give us matter plastics. So I'm not sure exactly how long this blaze burner will burn for, but I mean, I'm not concerned about our supply of blaze cakes here. How is our sand production doing? Okay. Yeah, maybe we should buff sand. I mean, we do have 2 matter plastics. I don't know exactly how much we're going to need. You'll need a couple of these. A couple? Is that really it? A couple? I mean, we need, what, 2 for the space helmet, 2 for the chest piece, 2 for the leggings, 2 for the boots, none for the charge pad. Wait a second, really? The assembly machine requires, what, 5? 1 for every 5 launch pads? Man, this is so cheap. Launch tower is only 1 plastic. Okay, so yeah, we really only need a couple of these things. But anyways, we can pick up 1 plastic for our quest. And so now this opens up the rest of our quests here in chapter 5. Let's start with our spacesuit. Actually, no, we can't because we don't have plastic. Yeah, in that case, I think I will buff this up. That was a very long-winded way of me saying that, but yeah, let's do something about this. One really cheap way we can actually speed this up is just to avoid also all of our flint. We can just, I think, add this into our retrieval module right here. Since it doesn't actually matter which item goes into the condenser over there. I mean, this flint is sitting here doing nothing. We might as well send it into the ender chest. So once again, a little update here on our computation matrix. I've decided to actually turn off a lot of the extracts on these things, since we have over a bucket of, of a lot of these logic items. And the ones we're missing here is 7 and 4. So I'm actually going to change up the equations we're using, as 7 and 4 both take 2, and we only have the 1 crafter for each. So we're doing 8 minus 6 for 2. So I'm going to switch this away from 8 divided by 2, and instead we'll make it 3 minus 1, so that it's not sharing with this crafter here. Wait a second, not 3 minus 1, 3 plus 1 is going to give us 4. There we go. So you know what, it's only been a couple of minutes since we set up these matter plastics, and we're already up to 15, so I think this is almost all we're going to need. So I started prepping all the things we need for our spacesuit here, actually. But since we only need to do this once, we can just temporarily set up some mechanical crafters out the front here. And we need our diving helmet, 2 matter plastics, and also 2 gold sheets. Is this backwards? It may be backwards, actually. It may just be because we have the corners on this, and they're all connected up. Yeah, there we go. So there's the helmet, the boots, the chest plate, which is it's so easy to craft this stuff. I'm not used to recipes being this cheap. Yep, there's our chest piece. And the final one is the leggings, which is almost the same recipe. There it is, the last piece of our spacesuit. And we're almost ready to leave this planet. We do need oxygen though. As you can see on the hotbar, we are out of oxygen in the spacesuit. The process to get oxygen though is going to require us to mix down zinc sheets, copper sheets, and water. Although it appears that we get both of the sheets back, which we can probably just recycle. And then we also do get hydrogen. I'm not sure if there's any use for hydrogen. Oh, and this also has to be a heated blaze burner, which means that we've got a blaze to find. Or a blaze spawner. I think we can right click this as well. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this process for the oxygen, I think we're going to put in front of our matter plastics. I'm not entirely sure if we can use blaze cake to fuel this blaze burner as well, or if the heat is going to be basically too much for this oxygen recipe. And the blaze cake will take it up to superheated, so I guess we'll find out here. So we're just going to place our basin and the mixer on top, blaze burner underneath, and we'll need a deployer to feed this thing. There's an extra deployer. So then I think we'll just place a buffer chest or a buffer barrel, and these we're going to use to store the excess sheets here. So we're just going to fill this with 30 of each of the sheets, and then we can just recycle these from the barrel into the basin, and then the output will also output these sheets, which we just... Actually, do we even really need to do that, or can we just keep it in the mixer? I'm not sure. And I guess the last thing we need here is a source of water. We can just do a regular water setup here with a pump and fill this straight into the basin, and also extend along the power. Oh, we have to flip this pump the right way. Yeah, so that should send water into our basin. Let's test if we can use our blaze cakes here. It looks like we can, so yeah. I guess there's no other reason to route any other sort of fuel over here when we have the blaze cakes. And I noticed they were spilling out on the floor here, so instead of the brass pipe that was feeding this deployer, we are instead going to use a belt, and we'll use a chute on the bottom of this, which will output from the drawer, and then andesite funnel on this deployer. Actually no, instead we'll raise the belt up a block and go over the top of the deployers, and then place some chutes below the belt, and that way we can do the same on the end one here. And we'll need a block on the end. So once we give all of these belts some power, all we have to do now actually is just extract the oxygen out of this basin. Although I think we will have to have a smart pipe on this, otherwise it'll pull out the water. So we can set the fluid filter here for the oxygen. Oh, that's weird, it turns the bucket into a tank. And then we can just buffer our oxygen here in a fluid tank. Actually, let's make this 3x3 instead. Not that we need that much oxygen, but... And we also need to power this pump here. Oh, but the hydrogen as well. Oh yeah, of course. I guess we need a nullifier for that. Yeah, there we go. So I added the nullifier on the back side here. We have this filtered for the hydrogen, so all the hydrogen just goes to be voided in here. And the oxygen is just the same on this side, we're just filtering it with the smart pipe. And to remove the barrel on the back here, I think we can just keep one of each sheet in the basin. So long as it has water and also space for the extra fluid, it will, yeah, just continue to mix for us. So yeah, that's going to build up a steady supply of oxygen for us for when we reach space. Oh, and we're also up to 26 buckets of refined fuel. I think maybe our oil has been depleted. So it may be the case that we have to find more of that, I'm not sure of the amounts. But yeah, we're currently up to 2 more blocks of Computation Matrix actually. So we have 1 cast out here, pour out another 2. Man, that fluid looks so cool, doesn't it? However, the quest only calls for 8 of these things, which is used in our rocket guidance computer recipe. So this system that we've got set up here, in hindsight, is probably not necessary. It's probably just going to be fine to like buffer a lot of stacks of these and then just manually insert them into a barrel up here to be inserted to the smeltery, rather than trying to insert manually and then ending up with inconsistent amounts here. Unless there's maybe something I've missed, that's also possible. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap up here for today. We are almost at the end of this pack, actually. We've got a few more things to craft yet for space. So if I was to guess, I think next episode is going to be the last of Create Above and Beyond. After the last episode, you can expect the mod pack review. That may take a day or two to come out. But afterwards, we're going to be moving to another pack. And something a bit more long term than this. I didn't realise this pack would be quite so short, actually. But definitely next pack is going to be something big. That's all I'm going to say, so yeah. Anyways, that is going to do this for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all soon for some more, the last episode of Create Above and Beyond.